Happy almost New Year, folks. Indeed, it's once again that time where we all have a few too many sherries and reminisce about all of the great things that have happened in the past 12 months. I know there are a lot of bad ones as well, but let's not focus on that. Perhaps you got married, had a baby, or finally perfected that cheese souffle recipe you've been working on for years. Not us, though. We here at Team TripleJump didn't do any of those examples. Well, except the souffle, obviously. So we're going to reminisce about all of the great video games we've played in the past year instead. As is always the case with these best of X year videos, a game can only qualify if it was released in the year in question, 2024 in case that wasn't clear, and received a minimum of 7 professional reviews according to Metacritic. This helps to keep things nice and balanced from video to video. We don't include DLCs in this list, doesn't stop Jeff Keighley though, and we also won't be including the remaster of The Last of Us Part 2, because let's face it, it was entirely unnecessary. So, with all that out of the way, I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are the 10 best games of 2024. Number 10, Balatro, PC, 90%. Do you like cards? Do you also like roguelikes? Then by Jove are you going to get a kick out of this one. Released in February 2024, Balatro is kind of like digital poker, but also not. Players start out by choosing a deck, and the aim is to play poker hands to defeat blinds. However, this isn't your nan's poker, no siree, because players can purchase additional cards which change the rules of the game. In each run, players must beat 8 increasingly difficult antes, with each ante being comprised of a small blind, a big blind, and a boss blind. From each, coins are granted, and after a blind, players can visit a shop where they may buy new cards and sell the ones they're not so keen on. If they win 8 antes, they'll unlock new cards for future runs, and can even opt to continue in endless mode if they so wish. Numerous critics likened Balatro's addictiveness to other deck-building roguelikes such as Slay the Spire, praising its simple-to-learn yet tricky-to-master gameplay mechanics, inventive premise, and the fact that it was near impossible to put down once they'd picked it up. Number 9, Animal Well, PC, 91%. Despite what its name might imply, Animal Well is not a light-hearted, cutesy title in the vein of Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley. In fact, it's really rather spooky and unsettling in places. Released for PS5, PC, and Switch in May 2024, and for Xbox Series in October 2024, Animal Well is a game of the Metroidvania persuasion in which players take control of a blob and must navigate a labyrinth filled with a variety of creatures, platforming and solving puzzles as they go. The experience is divided into 4 different layers, each of which adds complexity, with the first being for the more casual player, whilst the 4th is for only the most inquisitive who want to play the game time and time again in order to uncover all it has to offer. Unsurprisingly, critics were blown away by the sheer number of secrets and mysteries to unearth in Animal Well, as well as its gorgeous art style, unnerving ambience, tight and unique gameplay, thought-provoking puzzles, and its fresh take on the Metroidvania genre. Atmospheric, addictive, and filled to the brim with new things to discover, there's really no wonder this animal did so well with reviewers. What? I thought that was quite a good one, actually. Number 8, Tekken 8, PC, 91%. Right, that's quite enough spooky stuff for the time being. Let's go and punch some fools. The 8th canonical entry in the series, which has several other spin-offs, Tekken 8 takes place just 6 months after the events of Tekken 7, and places its focus squarely on the final showdown between protagonist Jin Kazama and his father, Kazuya Mishima. When it comes to the gameplay, those who've played a Tekken game before won't find too many surprises here. Characters engage in hand-to-hand combat with an opponent, utilizing combos and special moves as they do so. The major gameplay change in 8, though, is the introduction of Heat, which encourages players to fight more aggressively rather than defensively. Numerous publications described Tekken 8 as the best game the series has ever served up, with one going as far as to state that every gamer, no matter if they're a fighter fan or not, should have it in their collection. Super fluid combat, a simultaneously serious and goofy story, and that ever-imaginative roster of characters all came together to make Tekken 8 the absolute best fighting game of 2024. You might say that Bandai Namco have Tekken the series to new heights. Number 7. Castlevania Dominus Collection, Switch, 92%. We normally wouldn't bother featuring collections on a list like this, however, the Castlevania Dominus Collection sneakily included a redesigned version of Haunted Castle, the first Castlevania arcade game, and as such, qualifies for a spot amongst the best games of 2024. In addition to Haunted Castle Revisited, the Dominus Collection also gives players the opportunity to play Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, and Castlevania Order of Ecclesia for the first time since they made their debuts on the DS in 2005, 2006, and 2008, respectively. Ports can sometimes be tricky beasts, but critics agreed that developer M2 did a fantastic job of bringing the trio of almost 20-year-old games to modern platforms. Furthermore, they lauded the updates made to Haunted Castle, with many going as far as to say it was even better than the original. Throw into the mix the fact that the Dominus Collection gave players 4 fantastic games for about the price of a greasy takeaway, and there's no wonder it went down with players roughly as much as a nice warm glass of blood would do with the bitey guy himself. Don't think too hard on that analogy, I can assure you our writer certainly didn't. Number 6. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Xbox Series X/S, 92%. I don't know about you, but it tends to feel like the Yakuza series always flies under the radar a bit and then every so often sneaks out a game that's as bat-plops insane as it is brilliant. Case in point, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, a game which, to our knowledge anyway, seemingly released with little to no fanfare and yet has still ended up being one of this year's finest offerings. Serving as a direct sequel to 2020's Yakuza Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth sees protagonists Ichiban Kasuga and Kazuma Kiryu heading, in a series first, out of Japan and to the tropical shores of Hawaii in the hopes of reuniting Kasuga with his mother. Simply put, if you enjoyed Yakuza Like a Dragon, you're going to enjoy this, because it's basically more of it, but with refined gameplay mechanics, new characters who gel seamlessly with the old ones, and a narrative that sets a new benchmark in storytelling for the series. Hilarious, heartbreaking, and downright weird at times, Infinite Wealth is everything you could want from a Yakuza game, and much, much more. Ideally, you would play all of the others before this one to get the most out of it, but that sounds like the best homework I've ever been set. Who's gonna turn down the excuse to play even more brilliant video games before even getting to this one? Number 5. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, Xbox Series X/S, 92%. Hang on a minute, you might be thinking to yourself. Shin Megami Tensei 5 has been out for years. What's it doing here? Well, that is true, but this is Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, an expanded version of the 2021 RPG. Yeah, glad we were able to clear that one up. The game tells the story of a high school student who is drawn into a post-apocalyptic realm fused with a demon and becomes embroiled in a war between angels and demons that started when Lucifer killed the creator and everyone began fighting over who would rebuild the world. As said, Vengeance is an expanded and enhanced version of Shin Megami Tensei 5, and comes with improved navigation, additional difficulty levels, altered items and demon behavior, rebalanced mechanics which account for smaller parties, and added gameplay elements. Critics agreed that Vengeance improved upon the original version of Shin Megami Tensei 5 in every conceivable way, giving players the absolute best turn-based RPG experience of the year in the process. Though perhaps not as slick as Atlus's Persona series, it was still considered a must-play for fans of the JRPG genre by critics, who praised the quality of life improvements, the accessibility for newcomers, and the addictive combat. Number 4. UFO 50 PC, 92%. If you're a fan of the channel, you'll know that many of us here at Team TripleJump are Northerners, and as such, we just love a good bargain. So when we found out that a title exists that includes not 2, not 3, but 50 different games, all for less than the cost of, again, a greasy takeaway, well, good golly, were we excited. UFO 50, which launched as a PC exclusive in September 2024, is a collection of 50 brand new games spanning a wide variety of genres, from puzzlers and platformers to Metroidvanias and RPGs. According to UFO 50's lore, each of the games was created in the 1980s by a fictional video game company. Some games are sequels to others in the collection, and multiple characters appear in several of the titles. Critics immediately fell in love with UFO 50, regarding it fondly as a love letter to a bygone age of gaming. Some noted that not all of the games contained within are worth sticking with for their full runtime, but a great many of them very much are, and even those that are less successful have a lot of great ideas. Ambitious, inventive, and wholly addictive, UFO 50 will probably be the best 20 quid you spend all year, if for no other reason than that's how long it will keep you entertained. Number 3. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, PS5, 92%. Despite only being released 4 years ago, it feels like an eternity has passed since we were given Final Fantasy VII Remake, and fans have been chomping at the bit for the next part. Well, their prayers were answered in 2024, as the second part of the planned trilogy, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, landed in February. Rebirth picks up where Remake left off, and players once again join Cloud, Strife and the gang, most of whom are members of the eco-terrorist organization Avalanche, as they continue their journey across the planet in an attempt to prevent megacorporation Shinra from exploiting its life source and long-haired douche canoe Sephiroth from merging with the planet to gain its power. Like its predecessor, Rebirth was considered the perfect homage to the original Final Fantasy VII, preserving everything that made the 1997 RPG great, whilst updating it for a modern audience. Critics fell over themselves to praise everything it had to offer, from its tight gameplay and stunning graphics to its heartfelt, gripping story. Emotional, beautiful, and ambitious, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a phenomenal achievement in gaming, and a title that anyone with even a passing interest in RPGs should definitely check out. You know, after they play Remake first. Number 2. Metaphor ReFantazio, PS5, 93%. Wow, a lot of JRPGs on the list this year. I'm starting to think the rest of the world was slacking. Come on, what's going on, Western games industry? Oh, wait, no, I remember. The Western games industry is completely on fire. Well, this is awkward. Anyway, Metaphor ReFantazio, released in October 2024, takes place in the United Kingdom of Uchronia, a medieval fantasy realm whose king has recently been assassinated and whose prince has been cursed and slumbering for several years. Players take on the role of Will, a young orphan and childhood friend of the prince, as he takes part in a royal tournament to determine the king's successor, all whilst journeying across the kingdom to rally support and find a way to lift the prince's curse. Critics really struggled to find anything to complain about when reviewing Metaphor ReFantazio, heaping praise upon its fantasy world, expansive combat system, mix of turn-based and real-time gameplay, characters, art direction, and story, and comparing it favorably to the Persona and Shin Megami Tensei series. Basically, if you're a fan of Atlas RPGs and haven't already gotten in on the Metaphor ReFantazio action, you are truly missing out. And number 1, Astrobot, PS5, 94%. I'm not gonna lie, we here at TripleJump Towers were incredibly hyped for Astrobot in the weeks prior to its release, and so the fact it ended up being the best game of the year, according to critics at least, is music to our ears. Astrobot is the third game in the series of the same name, and sees the titular Astro embarking on a mission to find his robot compatriots and recover parts of their mothership after after the space bully Nebulax steals the ship's CPU, which in turn causes it to explode. In order to recover Astro's cybernetic pals and restore his ship, players must platform their way through 90 different levels in which they'll need to search for the robots, collect coins, and defeat bosses. Astrobot garnered universal critical acclaim upon its release in September 2024, with numerous outlets praising its platforming mechanics, heartwarming story, inventive design, and gorgeous visuals. Charming, addictive, and endlessly joyful, Astrobot is an absolute must-play for anyone who owns a PS5, and as good of a reason as you're going to get to buy the console if you don't already have one. So congratulations to you, Astrobot, for being the absolute best game of 2024. It's always nice to see a short character win this award. Makes me feel better about myself.